Well, the United Nations Education Envoy Gordon Brown has launched a $10 billion scheme to widen access to education in some of the world's poorest countries. The fund will tackle the problem of 260 million children without schools. Gordon Brown believes this will help fast-track the attainment of Goal 4 of the Sustainable Development Goals. He's worried that by the year 2030, an estimated 800 million people will enter adulthood without the qualifications necessary for the modern labor force. The former British Prime Minister believes the setting up of the International Finance Facility for Education will provide proper funding for good teachers and schools.
There is no way at all, not any way, under current trends and under current financing, that you could ever meet the Sustainable Development Goal that is education, primary and secondary education for all by 2030. On current trends, as I've said, 800 million would be failing to meet a quality test and 400 million children would not be getting beyond primary education. So what have we to do to change that? Yes, we've got to have domestic mobilization of resources, and any country here who is serious about education is going to have to invest more in the future. And yes, we need more productive use of money. And if the best performers were modeled by the worst performers, then we would have a huge increase in educational outcomes, performance and standards. But whichever way we looked, there's this massive financial gap that cannot be made up by taxation in the countries that are in need and cannot be made up unless we do something about the aid budgets. And when we looked at aid, it is impossible to imagine aid rising to the level that is necessary unless we have innovative ways of looking at how we better use aid. And so we came back to the billions to trillions strategy that was announced by the United Nations, the World Bank and the IMF in Addis Ababa a few years ago. How do you use aid as a basis for mobilizing more money in from the private sector as well as the public sector? How can we make money used more efficiently? And that's when we came to the conclusion, this is what you do for low-income countries, and this is what you've got to do quite differently for lower middle-income countries, where the bulk of children are. 700 million children in lower middle-income countries, just over 200 million in low-income countries. For low-income countries, what the World Bank has achieved, and Annette, I hope you can send our congratulations back, by the enhanced IDA, makes it possible to double the amount of expenditure by international institutions in aid for development in low-income countries. So I could see a situation where from 1.6 billion a year, you could move to 3.5 billion and help fund the next stage of getting children to school in low-income countries.